I hope that you find your passion out there, whether it be real estate, whether it be medicine, whether it be sports, whether it be.
And welcome back to another episode of Key Factors Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jones. And we are sponsored by ReviewMyMortgage.com, the largest index of mortgage programs nationally. And today we're going to be talking about something that is highly discussed among social media, among YouTube, and all other places, and that is foreclosure. I believe that this is something that folks use to get a lot of attention, a lot of views, and to spread a little fear. But one thing that's not talked about is how to avoid foreclosure. And today I'm bringing along a guest, Tony Martinez, who has over 16 years or 18 years of experience in the real estate industry, 14 of those years with Remax North San Antonio. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest, Tony. Tony, how's it going?
How's it going, Mark? Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. So I know this isn't your first podcast, but there's some folks out there that may or may not know you and your story. So I want to give you a little time to tell us who you are, where you come from, what you're about, all that good stuff. How did you get into the industry, and what's going on?
Well, I got involved in the industry. I was brokering freight.
Okay.
And my grandmother's always been in the real estate business. She's owned properties back when, you get them for $5,000-$10,000 each back in the day. So I've had my share of sweeping out, cleaning, and mowing lawns with a hand mower and everything. So I saw this ad for Century 21.
Okay.
And I thought, you know what, man, I want to get closer to home. Let me see what this is about.
Okay.
So I signed up. I didn't like their program, so I ended up going to school. But I'm somebody that if I'm going to jump into something, it's 100%.
I love it. So the way I say that is, don't do anything half-assed, do it your whole ass.
There you go. So I knocked it out in, I want to say 60 days, 30 days,
okay.
I think, 30 days. And then I ended up going to work funny for a big Century 21 outfit.
I see.
And so that's where I got started in the real estate business.
Was it all here in San Antonio?
All here in San Antonio.
Very good.
But what I did was, back home, I'm from California. So back home, I ran a warehouse. And so I had nothing but Hispanic folks that just spoke Spanish. So I haven't used my Spanish in a long time.
No.
So being here, I didn't need it as much as I did back there. And so when I went to work for the Century 21 office, they had a satellite office off of South Cross on the south side.
Okay.
So I thought, you know what? Another thing jumping in.
Let's go.
Just like getting on a bike, man. Yo, kiddo. I was ordering. That's how I ordered.
That's awesome.
White boy style.
Yeah. Tex-Mex.
There you go. Tex-Mex. So I went back into an area where I had to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled out the Sunday paper and I started calling FSBOs.
That's awesome.
And the ones that spoke Spanish, it sounded like crap.
Yeah, but you still went through it. So two things there. First off, FSBO stands for For Sale by Owner, for those of you that don't know what that acronym stands for. But another thing that's relatable is back when I was working for Chase Bank, they put me at a branch off of Fresno and McKella, right in that area.
Yeah.
And it was mostly Spanish-speaking people. And at that time, you made a good base, but all the rest of the money came from commissions, selling banking products, investment products, things of that nature. Well, I knew Spanish back when I was younger. Mi abuelita, she only spoke to me in Spanish. And being that I'm white, black, Hispanic, all the above, I kind of lost it, right? So I'd have customers come in and I would straight up tell them, hey, you talk to me in English, I'll talk to you in Spanish. We're both going to sound stupid, but at least we'll be able to communicate.
Here's the funny thing, though, is that if they see you trying,
100%,
they want to work with you and correct you. And it's not in a bad way,
no,
but it's in a way to help you get better.
Absolutely.
And so I found that out,
quickly, huh?
Yes, that my fear of speaking it again had gone away really quick. Mijo.
That's right. That's right.
They would repeat it back to me. Or I'd use things like, instead of, car, I'd try to,
Caro.
Yeah, or or try to what's the word I want to use here? I want to describe it.
Sure,
and they would
sure.
tell me what the word
word
is.
was. Okay,
Yes. So I kind of go around it in a roundabout.
It's just a cool concept because a lot of folks are scared to even attempt that.
Yes.
And we'll find, just like you said, they're very willing, and I say they, I'm talking about Spanish-speaking internationals, things of that nature, are very willing to help communicate with you and teach you and kind of hold your hand through it if you're willing to do the same.
Yes, and
So-
and it's not just in that culture. I found that it's in every culture.
100%.
Google Translate helps you tremendously now.
Yeah.
It helps you communicate because it gives it to you in a voice form, in verbiage form, writing
They
form.
put Rosetta Stone out of business.
Yes, they did really quick. But here's the thing: if you keep it simple, it stays simple. If you
You're
get
not
too
wrong.
complicated with that, you're going to find that you're overeducating the
Just like
concept or the
everything
conversation.
else. If you look over here, I've got a little plaque that says rocket scientist. Why? Not because I'm a rocket scientist, but it's a reminder to keep things simple.
Yes.
They don't need to overcomplicate anything,
Yes.
especially when you're dealing with mortgages and real estate
There
and
you
people's
go.
big purchases, etc.
Yes.
So I want to ask, once you got into the business, it was maybe a couple years later that you found Remax. What was that transition like, and what have you been doing since? Because I do know that Remax North runs a very solid organization. Rich over there is doing fantastic. Tabor's been running. I mean, you guys are awesome.
So here's the thing about any brokerage, right? In Remax in particular, at the time when I made the switch, you need to educate yourself, right? You start learning your way through the ropes, and you start your commission. Either you're on a split, and you start working your way up to that 100%, so to say,
Sure.
so to speak. So then you start looking at other things. Hey, why is it better over here? What are you doing? You hear from your friends and whatnot that you develop in this
Right.
business, right? It's a relationship business, so you're
And it's,
constantly.
a small business if you start digging in. come to
Yes,
find out,
yes,
you know?
yes. And so I started doing my homework. And one of the things I found that Remax had a brand that was right up there with Starbucks, McDonald's. They're one of the top 10 franchises to own.
Right.
And so then I dug in a little bit more, and I found out and then you go to these real estate events,
Mhm.
and I'm here, I've been with Remax 10, 12, 15 years, and I'm going 2, 3 years going, man, I ain't going to be here that long. I don't even know if I'm going to be here 18, 20 years.
Who
What are you
knows?
doing,
Yeah.
man? But then you start digging into it, and you see why you're there. One, you love this.
Sure.
You do this for a reason that you love it, right? You love helping people. And I think it's a concept that you have to learn right off the bat. It's not about money. Money comes. Money will
Correct.
always be there. But if you're not building relationships, you're not going to be in this business very long.
You're not wrong, especially in a market like today.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, this is the second, we'll get into it, but this is the second type of market that has turned, and so you get a little bit more experience when that donut goes around one
You're
more
not
time.
wrong. And I'm curious because I believe that you're referring to 2008 when this may be where we differ, and this could turn into an even better episode because I'm not the type that just goes with the flow and what people say and things of that nature. I want to have a good dialogue and see what's in your mind and in mine, and let's make rational logic behind it, because the only way you learn is to actually talk about it and research and experience it, fail on it, things of that nature.
That's actually how this conversation got started.
Yes,
on
sir.
a post.
That's
He
right.
talks about social media. That's exactly how this started.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into that. I mean, so there was a post that you had put out, and it had to do with avoiding foreclosure.
Yes.
And for me, I love education. I love this business because I've become an expert in mortgages. I can't say I'm an expert at real estate, but I do practice real estate. I am an investor, things of that nature. But I think the way that you posted that was a great way to do it from an educational stance, whereas a lot of folks out there are using it to generate leads. They're doing it to spread fear. They're doing it for other reasons than what you did in your intent. And it was very clear in your intentions. But think the banter that went on in the comments led it to believe that we're headed towards the same market as 2008. And I'm here to tell you that we're not. And definitively, based on research, logic, being in this industry from the lending side for the past going on 11 years, things have changed. I think the biggest reason why it's not is 2008 was caused by fraud. I mean, it was a massive fraud all over. It wasn't like, are they doing it or are they doing it? No, everyone was.
Oh, man.
I wasn't in the industry. And you know what? Let's stop for a moment and tell us about that, because I know you were in the industry when that was going on.
So, yeah, I was not only in an industry, I was a homeowner.
Okay.
I was just a homeowner for, getting my feet wet 4 years into it,
Okay.
right? Fortunately for me, it was a brand new home.
Okay.
So I gotta say that was a plus, because as you know, if you buy a pre-existing home, you may or may not, depending on the age of the house, deal with some things that happen along the way, right? With a new home, you're babied into it, right? You're not gonna
and things
you're not gonna change. So, but for me, it was more economic.
Okay.
All right. You're blowing and going, man. You're making good money. Kind of like what happened the last couple of years. Some of these agents that come in, they're making good money. That's another topic.
No, by all means, we're here to talk.
Okay, so you're going and you're making this money, but you're not being smart with your money.
Agreed.
Because it's a tree. It's a tree that you see that it's always growing, but it never is going to go into winter, and the leaves will all fall off.
Correct.
Right?
You're not wrong. And that took place for a good 2.5 to 3 years because of interest rates being so low. It was damn near free money, and a lot of folks disagree by saying, no, it's just low rates. No.
It's free money.
That's free money.
Well, if you've gone through a cycle once, and you said you worked for a bank, and I know with all the banks, so that first time around was right. Nobody knew what was going on.
Correct.
Banks, nobody knew. Everybody was eating everybody else, right? And, you got investors that are opening up their own banks, that type of thing. So, and a good movie if you ever want to know about this, is Too Big to Fail.
Oh, that one too. Great.
That tells you play by play from Jamie Dimon all the way up, and you'll know why. You said Chase.
Absolutely.
Chase is a bank of mine.
Yep.
They're a reason why they are strong. And if you've ever followed them, there's a reason for that. They make smart moves.
Correct.
Regardless of what you think of any bank, they're smart moves.
They're still in business. They got my money too.
Yes. Right?
Yep.
And so I didn't know what I was doing 2 years into it, and 3 years, and you're going, all of a sudden the bottom falls out. You're making good money, and now you're making no money.
Right.
And so for me, what saved me was my wife worked, and so I was making a payment, and then 3 months go by, no payment, then I'd make another payment and a couple payments here. So I actually took it was a seminar.
Okay.
Of these 4 agents that were talking about short sales.
Sure.
And at that time, I was trying to save myself. What do I do? How do I do this? Or how do I stay? And you talk to a bank, and you're talking, it's like talking to the wall. Right. That person's getting paid X amount of money to give you the party line.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
And it's a big, what I found out later, and I call them the 4 horsemen. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, and Citi.
There you go.
They are the biggest ones that buy all the notes, the portfolio notes, right? And then from there, they have a spider web of subsidiaries.
What's the other 4 horsemen? Isn't it Jim?
Jack Daniels, Madrone, Jägermeister. Yeah. Let me tell you, it feels that way too when you're done.
Very relatable. Very relatable.
Dealing with both of them. So,
go ahead.
So that's why I call them the word. Not the apocalypse.
Right.
But I found that it was a big yarn, and they all service each other's loans, which a lot of consumers don't realize that the underlying servicer could be Chase,
correct,
could be Wells Fargo, right?
And what he's talking about there, listeners, is on the side of the tracks that I'm on, I originate the loans. My team originates the loans. We are using our money or our warehouse lines to fund the loans, and then we sell them on what's called the secondary market. Secondary market consists of plenty of investors all over the place. Chase, Wells Fargo, all of the folks that are not not going to say they're not good at originating loans or putting loans together or learning guidelines to help you get across that finish line and using different ways to advise you, etc. But that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
They come to us first to put the loan together. We're able to help more customers. Then we sell them to the banks for them to service.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, I'm an investor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So banks don't produce an object.
Right.
They make money. That is the object, right? Fictitious object.
What do they say? If you can't spot the product, you are the product.
Yeah, and so that's what they do, right? They invest to gain the money and
leverage and
do what they do. That's their forte.
Correct.
So, right. So yeah, I got in that spider web and took a seminar with 4 guys, and one of them is still doing the business. And I'm a very good friend of his. You might know him as Josh Boggs.
Oh yeah, absolutely, great guy.
So
yes. Knows his stuff.
And so he and I, he got involved in that, and I listened to them, and I thought I went there to save myself.
Awesome.
That's what I went there for.
Sure.
Right? I'm in their business. I want to hear what they're saying. I was not about to lose my home, and I did everything that you could possibly do to try not to stay with your home, and that includes foreclosure. I mean, that includes bankruptcy.
I see.
So I did it all, man. I went through everything, trial by fire to save myself.
And that speaks volumes when you have a client that you're advising, because the best way to advise someone is truly from experience first. Therefore, you can be compassionate with them. You can be relatable with them. And you can, at the end of the day, say, I've gone through it.
Let me tell you,
know?
There has been many times where I've told folks after they've given me their story, and I tell them, okay, now let me tell you mine. Yeah. And we instantly bond, like a marriage.
Yeah.
I've had people cry. I've cried. Because I understand, where am I going to put my dog? Where am I going to live? People right now love their dogs, right? Or they love their animals.
Sure.
So how's it going to affect my marriage? It takes a very big strain on you when you tell somebody, okay, but this is what we're going to try to do. And this comes to the educational part that you and I talk about is I have probably saved more homes than sold homes. So if you read the rest of that post,
absolutely.
Those posts said, I have never met anybody that has worked so hard on this. And this is where we came into. And yes, it is all about education. Once you tell somebody, okay, so you got sucker punched. You didn't see it. I didn't see it. But now where can you go from here? In about 2, 3, 4 years, depending on what's happening, the guidelines, you'll be back in the game. Yes. Back doing it the right way.
Right.
And there's 2 things I tell people all the time. It's want or need. That is the only 2 things you need to know about a budget. Do you want it or do you need it?
Correct.
And let me tell you, it is hard to tell somebody. And you fast forwarding to today, the same things are happening today that happened in 2008. Now, the leverage of homes, right? That part of it, maybe not so much.
Okay.
But the other parts of it are. And where I bring that up is, you said we had low interest rates the last couple of years,
100%.
free money.
Yep.
But with that comes free cars with low interest rates.
Yep.
But
Overextension.
Now I can get anything I want, credit cards.
And guess what? They did.
They did. And it's happening now.
Yes, sir. You're not wrong.
So the other things that are taking place still take place.
Right.
You go get a car right now, it's 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 11. My son says he's in the car business. Dad, my car payment's $1,100. I'm like, what the hell are you talking?
What'd you buy? Exactly.
He's got his F-250 or whatever, and it's a used one, but low money. And I'm like, okay, whatever, dude, but I'm not paying that.
You're fighting inflation on top of higher interest rates to accomplish the same goal that you could do 3 years, 2 years, 1 year prior at half the amount.
Yes.
Right? It's tough.
It's tough. And so you get that in play now. Now, as we spoke about to start this conversation, life happens. That's where this conversation came in. So yes, we don't have the problems of mortgages because you're right, everything was done right, but people don't learn their lessons.
I agree with that, and where I think there may be discrepancy or a potential for enlightenment discovery in some of the things that I get to see on my side. I do a lot of research and data because as an investor, I know I'm not spending money right now. You know why? Because I see what's happening. There will become an opportunity, but in my mind, it's not going to be nowhere near the opportunity that those in 2009 to 2012 after the crash. And that was a crash due to fraud. We are not going to have a crash. I can say it with all of me in the sense that, especially like right now, we're seeing a lot of folks marketing price reduction by 50,000. Well, if it was overpriced by 100, it's still 50,000 over.
There's about 58%. I mean, well, if you want to look about equity, there's 58% of most households have 58% equity in their house.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So it's not a question of, and this is the conversation we're having, it's not a question of a crash. Mm-hmm. This is a question of educating what you do if you over leverage.
Correct.
And so that's where I come from.
Let's get into that piece of it because I pulled some data here. And first and foremost, foreclosure. What does it mean and what do you need to know? And a couple of things that I pulled out of here is obviously our goal is to educate him. But what I'm seeing is folks talking about 200%, 67%, 400% increase in foreclosures. Yes, you get to those numbers when there were none the prior. And there was the CARES Act that was put in place due to COVID, allowing the consumer to have multiple chances or abilities to forbearance, modification, things of that nature to keep your home. And I also want to get into the difference between a foreclosure and a short sale. There's a lot of things that we can touch on here to educate these folks.
Yes.
Because there's one thing that I could not find data on, and I believe it's because it's really not there. I'm sure it's somewhere, but the amount of short sales in Texas versus the other states that are out there, like your Californias, your New Jerseys, things of that nature. And the reason why I don't see very many short sales over foreclosures is because we're not underwater on our property. We're very, very few opportunities to be loan to value over 100%. Those instances are VA loan, and you've had it for a year, 2 years because it's 100% finance plus the funding fee. USDA, same concept, 100% financing plus the funding fee or the guarantee fee. A bond loan where a customer got a 3%, 4%, they put it on a silent second lien for their down payment, and within the next year to 2 years, okay, they can't afford it or they lose their job, things of that nature. But even still in those cases, if you were in your home at least 1 year, you may even just break even by selling.
You're right. You may break even. And I think the data that you're looking for is correct. The last couple years, I used it.
Okay.
Because I learned my lesson the first time around.
Sure, sure.
If you're not learning,
you don't know.
You don't know, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we're having this conversation. I learned the second time around because they long the story short of it, I was able to save my house.
I love it. Okay, very good.
I was paying attention, and here's the other thing. We need to pay attention of other data, not just data that's here. We need to pay attention to the news. What's happening? Economy, wars. These all things affect what we do, right? In an indirect way, but it does.
Right.
I mean, an example, iBuyers, right? We were all about a year ago, 2 years ago, iBuyers, don't deal with those, What was it? One of the biggest iBuyers, Open Door, laid off 550 people, 18% of their staff.
Right.
And they're not buying right now. They're actually overpriced.
But it's also a business decision.
It's money.
Partnering with Zillow to take what Zillow has already built and structured. They mastered what they do, which is lead generation and consumer education, things of that nature. Data, ease of access.
Yes.
Open Door, in my opinion, they damn near perfected the I process. They just hit a tough market to do it.
It was a good market, and then it got bad on it real quick. And actually, getting back to Zillow stopped buying.
Right.
Zillow did
they
the
stopped
same thing.
buying to partner with Open Door. They went, you know what? Why are we wasting our tons of money? Let's just partner with these guys.
Their job is just like a bank, right? They don't produce anything.
Right.
They did produce data, and so who do they hit? They hit me and you.
That's right.
The producers, the producers, the real estate agents, and the mortgage guys. Hey, let me sell you something.
Correct. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That we could easily do ourselves. That I've learned, by the way, you can do yourself.
Yes. Kind of like washing your car or cutting your grass.
Yes, you can either do it yourself. You can hire well, I think we're both at that same point.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We did it when we were 18.
Once upon a time. Then we learned the value of time.
Yes, that is it. Value of time. But getting back to this is I learned that, I've got to get myself out of this, and I did. They offered me, watching the news at that particular time, the DOJ was suing the banks. Now, one thing that I've kind of figured out, I don't know if it's true or not, I kind of put it together. So they sued Chase, or they sued, let's use Wells Fargo, because I don't think they sued Chase. They sued Wells Fargo multiple times.
Okay.
And my loan happened to be with Wells Fargo.
Gotcha.
So they sued Wells Fargo multiple times, $25 billion, right? One time. I got to figuring out, because I actually, if you know anything, Wells Fargo has a place right here off of Wiseman that deals with this.
Oh, yeah. They call it The Rock.
Well, no, that's off
That's Chase. Chase is The Rock. The other Wiseman is over here. I know what you're talking about. By SeaWorld. Right?
Yes, okay. But they had...
used to be... gosh, what was it called?
Another lender, right? That they bought out. And that came into them eating each other up after a while, right? Goldman Sachs, all of them got eaten up, right? So they had a seminar over at the Hyatt Hill Country of all their mortgages out there. Do you know that not one person, they had like 1,400 people go over there, not one got remodified.
Oh, wow.
But what I started paying attention is the DOJ was suing Wells Fargo, and they said, okay, here's what's happening, we're going to sue you. They didn't pay a fine. What they did was made a deal and started helping all these mortgage folks out and sliding that over. Okay, I'm rolling over 4,000. Boom, I'll move that to my fine, so to speak.
Sure.
So after the second time they sued him, all of a sudden I get a call from Wells Fargo. Hey man, if you make your payments 3 times this month, in a row, we'll lower your interest rate from 6.5%, where we're at right now, right?
Sure. No, you're
which
not
is
wrong.
nothing back then either.
You're not wrong.
To 4.1. So I've been sitting on 4.1 since that time, since 2010, 11. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. It dropped my payment $200. Made it matter. I was under $1,000 at that time, and I got back in the game.
Right.
Getting back to this time around, when you said the CARES Act.
Right.
Everything's a click of the button. I pay my mortgage online. So I go to Wells Fargo. There's a big sign. If you need help, please click on this button. We're not going to hit your credit. We will not report it. You have all this time in the world to pay for it, until so I click the button. They give you 6 months not to worry about it. Now, I paid my payment. Sure. I just used it as a safety net just in case, because remember, 2008, I didn't know. So nobody knows. Is the world coming to the end with this pandemic? Or are we all going to, whatever. So I use it as a safety net. And I kept making my payment. Well, this went on for 18 months. Mm-hmm. I think, 18 months. Until finally they said, okay, so, and they even gave me one last break last September. Sure. They said, if you still need it, then we need to put you in another program.
Gotcha.
But it's cutting off. It's going to start reporting September.
Right.
But
October. I bet even still they would give another. And that's kind of where I was getting to, and we can get to there eventually, but I'll just frame what I'm talking about, which is banks don't really want to foreclose. They're not in the business of selling houses. They're holding houses.
They don't want it. It costs them more money. It costs them more money. Exactly. It's more money. Again, they don't produce anything that's physical or tangible. We are the product, right?
And I think it's important for us to continue to educate folks on what foreclosure is, what you can do prior to that, because I honestly believe that the short sale word is thrown around a lot, but it's not even a realistic option that you should seek, because you have to be upside down for that to actually happen. And in most cases, people stop making their payments and then they go into foreclosure, freak out. They go, damn, I'm losing my house, when they could have sold, modified, forbearance.
So what is upside down to you?
For me, upside down is my property is less than what I own. If the value is less than what I own.
How long does that take you?
It depends.
So in the state of Texas, it's 30 days.
It's actually 120 days. And I pulled that data in order to, we're talking about, wait, I want to make sure we're talking about the right thing.
When you're upside down the first time you miss a payment on the backside,
right?
You're getting a call from the lender.
Yes, but they can't start foreclosure proceedings.
They're not.
Okay,
you're right. They're not foreclosing. We're talking about upside down.
Okay, very good.
So upside down to me is you've already missed one payment.
Okay. And then, so your upside down is...
There's a flag there.
Upside down, behind on payments. I think we should use that word instead.
Okay.
You're behind on payments, whereas upside down is what took place in California, in Florida, in all these places to where they were buying homes $500,000. A year later, it was worth $400,000.
Yes.
We don't have that issue in Texas.
We don't have that issue, but again, it's neighborhood by neighborhood, market by market.
Agreed.
So, but in general,
and loan scenario by loan
scenario. So the percentage of that happening right now is probably we're probably less than maybe 10%. If we had to say maybe 8%.
Say as a nation, we're at 5%.
Okay.
Look that up. And then in Texas, I couldn't find the data. I mean, I scoured it and I'm going, where the hell is the short sale data? I just think that we don't have enough situations to where our value is less than what we owe.
Yeah, I think, and I pulled it, I think in August was the last time I saw it was like 322 homes.
Okay.
Total in Bexar County for that month.
And that
is because
they've already had a hike.
Well, no, the judiciary process started opening up.
Oh, touche, that too.
September.
Now, are we talking short sale or foreclosure?
We're talking about foreclosure.
Okay,
the foreclosure process.
Gotcha.
The foreclosure process.
So, in order for, and this is for the listeners out there, in order for the bank or the servicer of your loan to start foreclosure proceedings, you have to be up to, and just in Texas, 120 days delinquent on your home loan. Now, even after the 120 days, you as the consumer have the ability to rebut that. You have the ability to dispute that. They'll give you another 30 days from that point. And if you're not able to modify, forbearance, sell, anything like that, then they have the ability to come in and foreclose on you.
It's usually about 60 or 90 days.
Right.
I mean, six months.
After
6 months, 9 months, maybe before the rock hits the floor and you sink.
And why does it take so long? The reason is, like we just discussed,
they don't want your
house. They don't want your house.
But here's the key, and I think this is where we are both probably in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You need to talk to somebody about what you're going through.
Agree.
Right up front. And that is where I come in and educate people and say out in the open. Okay, short sale. That's probably gets somebody's ears perked up.
Correct.
But believe it or not, my clientele is not my consumer.
You're right.
It's my real estate agent buddies.
Yes.
Because who are they touching?
Makes us all better.
They're talking to somebody and they go, oh man, I don't know if I can. You're underwater. I don't think I could. You know what? I know a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that guy.
I love it.
So I go to mixers. Mm-hmm. People know me for doing this.
Right.
Because I'm over there educating agents.
Right.
Hey man, if you come across anybody that's behind on their payments, let me know. You don't get yourself caught up in something that's going to take you 6-7 months to do.
Mm-hmm. I
can knock it. If I really needed to knock out a short sale, I can probably knock it out within 90 days.
Gotcha.
From beginning to end sold.
Now,
I sell it.
When you say short sale, this is something that I want to make sure of. Are you talking short sale, it sold prior to foreclosure, or are you talking short sale, it was upside down? And my definition of the upside down is they owed more than what it was worth. Because when I look at this, JC, if you can do me a solid on my notes there, just scroll up a tad, and I've got the two differences. Keep going. You're almost there. Right there. So the definition of a foreclosure, the homeowner itself has no choice in the matter. It's being taken because you're delinquent. Period.
That is that what we just talked about.
Correct.
6-9 month period where you buried your head in the sand.
Yep.
You didn't take the love letters or the acceleration letters. That's what they're really called, acceleration.
So you're on the money.
Yep.
And then the short sale situation is where the bank allows you to sell your home, but they typically won't do that unless you're really upside down on the property value to how much you owe.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're starting to go 30 days late, what's happening? And usually when you're 30 days late, and I get called from another agent, hey, Tony, I think you need to help these folks out. It's because
the bat signal.
Right. There's T-Mart, there's Tony.
I call it. That's right.
And what happens is that scenario right there. They couldn't sell the home, or the home is in such distress that they can't get it.
Yeah, true.
And they need somebody to liquidate this property. And so that's where I come in. And that's where we came in, and life happens.
Correct.
Nowadays, you need 2 incomes to buy a property. One income goes out, they can't refinance it. You're not even, you'll look at it and you go, nope.
Right.
I can't even do this because you don't make enough money.
Yeah.
I can get you into a $150,000 home, but my house is $370,000.
Yeah.
You need to sell.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what a homeowner can do in the case when they are starting to be behind and want to keep the home. Now, there are folks out there, and we're not talking to you folks, that you're behind on your payments and you say, I don't give a shit, I'm letting it go. That's straight up irresponsibility.
But you know what? I've dealt with those same folks.
Okay.
And let me just say this. You always want to do shorts. Don't let it go. Because on your end of it, if they, let's say that it's conventional, and they just say, screw it, I'm pissed at my wife, I'm going through divorce, I'm just letting it go.
That's a good scenario. You're right.
Okay. Yeah. I'm mad at her. We're not going to get this done. I don't care if it goes. Okay, your significant other that you just met another year ago, you're 2 years down the road, wants to buy a house. Hey, bud, you go and apply and go, man, you got credit score, but you know what? You got this foreclosure on here, like a repo.
Right.
Interest rate just went up to the roof.
Correct.
Because here's the one thing that I've learned. Repo, foreclosure, they all sit in the same thing, right? If you walked away from it the first time, there's nothing from you to stop away from walking away from the second time. And a lender will see that a mile away.
Now, here's something that I believe is a huge misconception, and I'm hoping that you can learn something on this too.
Sure.
Foreclosure and short sale in the eyes of the financer, or the lender, seen as the same thing.
Not really.
In any given scenario.
Here's where it's
waiting
different.
Periods are still the same.
Actually, well, yes, but
depending on the loan program, 2-year waiting period in order to.
But is the interest rate a little bit higher for foreclosure?
No.
Really?
No.
Then I've learned something new because.
And I will tell you, this is something that may have changed within probably the last 6 years or so, which we haven't had any foreclosures to be even paying attention to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it has been folks in the past that would come to us and say, oh, I've got a short sale, so it's time for me to buy a house. And we look at it, pull the guidelines up in front of them, and literally show them. Short sale and foreclosure are the same thing in our eyes, simply because you could not make the payment. Yes, you got out of it and you're okay, but from the investor side, it's still seen as the same.
So is it because, and here's one thing that I want to know about. When you
now, do I agree with it or not? I don't agree with it, because short sale means at least you had enough sense to get with somebody that advised you to get at least something out of it, or get it out of your name and paid off, versus full true foreclosure. But regardless, in order to do a short sale, you've got to be behind.
So how does it show up on your end of you pulled somebody's credit?
Foreclosure.
Okay. Now, have you pulled one that said short sale?
I have, and then we have to get it updated to show foreclosure.
Okay, so what do you mean updated to show foreclosure?
They mean the same thing.
Do they put on there? And I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
So this is what I advertise my clients.
Okay.
Once we get that letter that says, okay, we've approved your short sale.
Okay.
All right.
From the servicer.
We have agreed to approve and follow through, and we will not come after you for the deficiency. And that's a whole different thing we'll talk about here. What ends up happening is I wait 30 to 60 days after the sale.
Okay.
And I tell them to go pull their credit.
Right.
Either get with the lender, go to your 3 servicers, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian.
Right.
Pull your credit, see what it says. If it says foreclosure on there, then turn in the letter, because the letter says on there, there's verbiage on there that says paid less than agreed on.
Right.
And they have that put on their mortgage rather than foreclosure.
Right.
And I've had them do that 3 to 6 months.
Here is the good part about what you're talking about is in order to purchase a new home, whether it is short sale or foreclosure, the home that was foreclosed or short sold needs to be sold. So the tough part about foreclosure is they can foreclose on you and sit on it and not be able to sell it for a while. This is being the bank. Therefore, your waiting period has not started. So the 2-year waiting period, 4-year waiting period for conventional, 2-year for government type loans has not started. That time period starts when the home is sold from the bank to the next person.
Now, the reason for that is because they, and this is what we both can agree on this, they're having to get rid of
any doing your
liens.
job.
Yeah, they're having to get rid of any liens that are on the property.
100%.
That anything that's a mechanic lien that you didn't know about, secondary lien, HOA liens, they're the primary. And
Whereas,
it could take them a year
or
longer.
Up to 10 years is what the regulation. Now, I don't know anybody that is, or any bank that would want to hold on to it for that long. They'd rather take the L.
Yeah.
But in a short sale situation, that waiting period starts as soon as you sold it. You did your part, boom, the waiting period starts, and people believe that the short sale saved them to be able to buy a home. It's not necessarily the fact that it was a short sale versus a foreclosure. It's the fact that it sold, and it's now zero.
And they're able to learn to make sure that they raise that credit score up, and
yes,
because you need credit.
100%. Regardless,
credit is king.
There you go. I was going to say, regardless, either one are going to mess up your credit. But what the difference is,
and the degree of credit.
Yes. The difference is the waiting period, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this. The waiting period to purchase a new home, let's say it's 2 years from a foreclosure or a short sale. The short sale, you know that it's sold X day, blah, 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 blah. Foreclosure, you have to actually take the additional step to research to find out when that deed changed a second time after the foreclosure to know when that waiting period started.
So maybe
that's the difference.
So then probably where we're trying to get to in the same thing that happens along that way, and I just touched on it, is the credit part.
Yes.
Because one of the things is that your credit will drop quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And where I come in and educate my clients that have just sold their home and said, hey, paid less than agreed on, the hit is not as bad down the road as a foreclosure
and I think
or a repo.
So I'm going to take a little bit of what I've learned from what you've told me thus far and reshape, and you can agree or disagree, but I think a great way to sell this or to educate folks is if you go down, if all other options, your forbearance, your loan modification, your other selling it prior to and not having to go short sale. If those fail, short sale is the best way. Why? Because at least you know that within 2 years from the completion of this being sold or the bank agreeing to it.
Is that just so that I can educate me, is that the current guideline now? It's 2 years?
For government loans.
FHA or VA? Because I think it's VA, right?
VA technically is only 1 year.
Okay, great.
But
that's what I thought.
You can use a different program other than VA. Keep in mind it's about the insurance. Who is going to back this loan?
Okay.
VA is not going to back another loan.
So let's just say
still on
2
the books.
years. 2 years, you're back in the game.
And then conventional loans, 4 years, regardless of the type. Now, foreclosure, you can educate your customers by saying, if you go and wait for the foreclosure process, you really have no say as to when you can buy another home until the bank sells that.
Yes.
Does that make sense now?
Yes. No, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
But the other side of that too is, I look at it as the hit on your credit is much deeper than it would be. And the period, we're both going in the same direction. Right. The period to get this done,
yes,
it's a bigger hole you're having to come out.
It's not a guess.
Yeah, it's not a guess. It's a bigger hole.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we're both on that same line, whether it's the period of the foreclosure when you can buy a home or how you can reestablish your credit. The length can vary. I think by doing a short sale, your length of carrying over and trying to raising your credit score is much substantially better than foreclosure.
And I think a lot of folks tend to.
If you're, and we're in Military USA,
yes,
you get a foreclosure on your credit and you work for the NSA,
they won't allow it.
They won't allow it. So
you're right.
let's just take that one step further. Don't even go there with that.
That's
because
exactly
you will not get to talk to your uncle.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Or like us listening to somebody else.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But and I've helped folks on that and let them know, look, man, you can be as mad as you want at your significant other, you can be mad as you want about the situation. Your livelihood after this is what's gonna affect.
And I think that is what a lot of folks tend to discredit is their credit. I'm screwed. It is what it is. I'll never use credit
again.
There's a lot of jobs
there's a lot of jobs now that look at your credit, and they want to see what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, lending. You work for a lending institution. You go to work at USAA. They're going to look at your credit. They're not just going to let you walk through the door. I mean, you may be the best person, but if it's between you and somebody else, and there's something that's on your credit that you need to, they're not going to.
With everything else, you're not wrong.
So I think where I come from on this is, yes, you're dropping into the nuts and bolts of it. Yes, you can and can't do this. But for me, I've got to look at the life aspect of it.
Correct.
How am I going to get you back in this game to play and build your portfolio up again?
Correct.
So
and
that comes to the relationship part of this.
Because a lot of people don't think
about that. No.
And everybody is a right now situation versus, yes, we've got to deal with this right now, but 5 years from now, what is it going to look like and what are going to be your options? Well, I'm Tony. I can teach you those things and how to prepare yourself, because what you're going through right now, you've got to go through it. You've got no other choice or else you wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that's really where I come from. You touched on one word earlier, and that is forbearance. I've been doing this a while, and I have yet. Forbearance is just like a foreclosure. The bank doesn't want your house, and there is no way. I haven't seen it. It probably happens. Cash for keys, and the bank comes over and says, "Give me the keys, and I'll take over your house."
The forbearance is what they.
I'm sorry, not the forbearance. I'm thinking of
modification.
No, it'll come to me in a little bit. What I'm thinking of.
Not the short sale, not foreclosure, not deed in lieu.
Deed in lieu of doing lead up. Yeah, that I have never seen a deed in lieu of anywhere. The bank doesn't want your house.
They don't want it. They don't want it.
They'll offer it to you because they have to offer it to you.
Correct.
But there is no way that they're going to go into foreclosure.
So that leads into kind of a almost prediction or a pulse check to see what you believe is going to take place in the next coming years. Simply because we have so many things I believe we did learn from 2008 as not only an industry, but also consumer-wise, because there's more education out there about it. The fear of what took place in 2008 was embedded in everybody's everyday life. As when you talk about the great crash of 2008, you know what we're talking.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you that I don't think we're going to have a drastic change.
So I've got a video that I want to. Matter of fact, let's let's jump over to this quick article so I can read a couple of things, and then I want to play a short video after the fact. So this article that was sent to me by one of my loan officers, it's called The Real Deal, Texas Real Estate News, Foreclosure Spike in North Texas. And everything, that you see on social media, on YouTube, things of that nature, they're trying to get clicks. So they use words like spike, massive increase in foreclosures. And those words need to be taken very lightly, because as we scroll down on this article, here we go. Let's see here. North Texas lenders have scheduled 795 homes for foreclosure auctions next month, a huge year-to-year jump from only 331 last September, in Dallas Morning News reported. At the height of the market boom, homeowners facing foreclosure could usually sell their home before it came to the point of actual foreclosure. Let's see here. But as the housing market cooled, distressed homes have lingered in the market, leading some motivated sellers to cut their asking prices and still struggle to sell before the auction of the deadline. And that's kind of what you were talking about earlier, is we increase so much so fast, and people have their expectations up, and now they're having to lower it, but they can't lower it enough to sell it quick enough in certain markets, just like you were saying.
Yes.
And that is the case here in this scenario in Dallas. But then when you take a snapshot look back at the actual foreclosure, bird's eye view is what I like to call it. JC, can you go over to the slide that, oh, you know what? It won't pop up on the screen, but that's okay. If you take a bird's eye view, matter of fact, just put it on there and then I can talk about it. It's the very last one, the very last scene on OBS. Oh, yes. Yeah. And I can talk about that. Boom. So what the viewers are looking at right now is a chart of historic foreclosure amounts. And I think it goes back, how far back does that go? It is tough to see. I think it goes back to, who knows?
I think it probably goes back to 2000 or even 1990.
Yeah. 0102. Okay, to 0102.
Yeah.
And in 2008 and 2009, and probably 10, you see a huge increase in foreclosure.
I think MBS Highway has one.
Absolutely.
I looked at MBS Highways too. So
we subscribe. I love MBS Highway.
Yeah. I mean,
great
resource.
Have you ever been to one of his masterminds in Vegas?
No, but he gets on these other guys' podcasts that they've gone to doing something else. But they're out of California, and that's where I learned from him.
Smart cat.
And been following for years now since that. These guys that do mortgages out of California, they do this same thing, and that's where I learned about him.
Yeah,
and he's pretty cool. He's on point.
Yeah, he is. He knows stuff.
So and you're right about what we talked about foreclosure, because I mean, I think what did I look at? In 2021, it was like 69,000.
Right. Total.
Then it doubled. Correct. Getting back to what you just talked about, and that. Okay, 100% increase. Okay, it went up to 168,000.
Correct.
So, but in 2008, it was like in the millions.
Correct. And I think that's where folks tend to zero in, where they need to be showing a bird's eye view perspective of what's actually happening. Because when they say we're back up to pre-pandemic levels, we should be. That was pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Which, in that aspect, is nowhere near where we were in 2008, where you guys on the internet are saying we're having a crash. There's going to be a ton of foreclosures. No, I'm not going to say that it's a normal, healthy market to have X amount of foreclosures, but it's inevitable. Like you said, life happens.
Life happens. There's two scenarios that I'm dealing with right now currently. One is a divorce situation, and the other one is a death.
Okay. And both of those don't really have to do with the climate of what's happening in the economy.
No.
Those are situational.
Those are situational that happen. But as things happen, I mean, another situational is, as you know, from doing the loan side, in the last couple of years, people were overbidding. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 to try to get in the house, right? Well, where did they get that money from? They took it from 401k, their safety nets.
Correct.
They took it from mom and dad, their safety nets. So we're not, again, all it takes, because, and this goes back to why I'm here, is just more educational, is it takes two incomes now to hold on to a mortgage. All it takes is a problem to happen and over leverage, and there you are. And I'm here to, this whole conversation started because I'm here to let people know I don't want to sell your house, because here's the other thing of it. Do I want to sell a short sale? Yes. Okay, it's my business to sell homes, right? But it's also my business and a good steward to make sure I maintain what's happening in the market.
Agreed.
If I have a house that's selling on Main Street for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 less than a fair market price house, and there's really not a lot of difference other than a little bit of cosmetic stuff, right? Because that's what I get into. Is they couldn't paint, they couldn't change the carpets, they keep up with the maintenance. It's not that the house was falling apart. It's that it's pretty comparable almost, right? But it's a $50,000 difference. What am I doing here? I'm actually shooting myself.
That's right.
I'm shooting myself in the foot if I have two listings on the same street.
Yeah.
Now I'm hurting my fair market client over here.
Correct.
So I'm trying to do everything I can to save him from selling it or helping it or working with the bank. So that's where I step in.
It's smart. It's very smart.
So,
what you're doing is helping the whole of homeowners.
Yes.
It's not looking at it singularly. It is actually taking a stance and taking action to keep our values in a healthy place.
Yes.
And I think a lot of folks miss that.
Again, most people don't realize it. It took me a while to realize it. I just started realizing this about 4 years ago, right? Every transaction is worth, every person I deal with is worth 5 transactions in a lifetime.
I say the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. At least, right? And it's true. I look back and I'm go, wow, I sold 4 times, 3 times. They're there.
Yeah.
But it's relationship built, and I think that's some things that people don't understand. The ones that we talked about this a little bit earlier, that most of the business is run by a few in this business. It's a small community, but it's because it's relationship. We've learned that it's a relationship built business.
That is correct.
Have I lost some personal clients of mine that I've called friends? Yes.
And you're going to.
Why? Because it becomes a business. I like to say the word business. It turned into a business transaction.
Well, here's another way to put it. And I say it quite often, but if we only did business with our friends, we'd all be broke.
Yes. So
you've got to continue to breed and generate and cultivate new relationships.
But do they call me back? Yes.
For advice.
Yes, for advice.
After the fact, like, what the hell?
This just turned into a business, and now you're a warm up.
Yeah.
I'm good, but
Yes, you're not wrong.
But getting back to it is, if you're not helping that person that hired you the first time, or you put him in here's a better way to look at it. You blew and went in a hurry the last 2 years and really didn't pay attention to what your client's needs were, and you put them in this house. Yeah. And 2 years later, they're calling you because they have to sell that house. Mm-hmm. Did you really?
Did you do your fiduciary responsibility?
Did you really do that for them, or did you do it for you? And I'm not capping on my brothers and sisters.
I'm a huge advocate for what you're saying.
Right? I'm not capping on my brothers and sisters from the real estate community. I'm just saying, did you do that?
I will. I have no problem saying that. But shame on you guys that are looking out for yourself. And we talk about this multiple times on this podcast because it has to do with educating from a point of transparency and what we know as experts. And we know that it's not always the best decision for your customer to buy or sell given their situation. But there are some realtors that only look at people as paychecks. And those are the ones that will not be in the industry in the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to get tough.
You're probably going to see that here. You probably, if you didn't see it on the 31st when your dues were due, you're going to see it next quarter.
And you're not wrong there.
Because this is like I told you, this is the second cycle, and it affects everything. Mm-hmm. What used to be really easy, hey, I've got 25 offers, 50 offers on a house, is now hey man, I need an offer on this house.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is predominantly due to mortgage rates and affordability of homes. What our expectations were is I can buy a $300,000 house because the payment was what I could afford. You double interest rates, triple interest rates, and now that 300 turns into 200, unfortunately, and people can't cope with that. So they don't want to believe it, and they want to bet so heavily that it's going to crash. But we live in Texas.
I'm from California, so I understand. I was born and raised there, and I understand the lifestyle, the income, the taxation, and all of that.
Living beyond the means.
Yes. You move to Texas, and the middle part of the country.
Sure.
And it's a different way of life, different thought process, different
value structure.
You know, I joke about this all the time. I tell my friends and clients come from Cali, leave that flag on the line.
Don't bring it to Texas.
Don't. There's a sign here that says "Don't mess with it. Don't do it, dude." You're gonna learn real quick.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, man. You're not wrong at all.
But you know, it's where I come in is the life that happens. I'm there to be there for them as their realtor, as their friend, as their counselor, as their investment portfolio person. Is this a smart move?
And I think you're doing a good job.
And that is where this comes from. And again, I start off with when I'm that flyer that I made, it's for my realtor friends that know me, that say, hey, or the ones that don't know me and will know me from another friend that are saying, hey dude, you need something, you go call Tony. He'll help him out.
I tell you what, one thing that this is left field, but I am very big on digital marketing, things of that nature. For you joining this podcast, all that good stuff, I don't want any of your business, but I am going to help you in getting things like that on a digital front with ease of access. And I'll provide it all to you.
Thank you.
We'll get together next week, all that jazz. Before we end this off, I wanted to play a quick video and then kind of get your opinion on it, because there's quite a bit of nuggets within the video, and I want the listeners and viewers to see this and just get what our take is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to trend downward into next year for sure, right? If you look at kind of the pace that we're on right now, we'll cross that 0% threshold right around April of next year. And then from that point forward, it's really dependent on a number of different factors, one being interest rates and the second one being inventory, right? That inventory continues to put upward pressure on prices and will limit the amount of decline that we'll see out there in the market.
Limit the decline, and you and I have talked about this, how the housing market might be more in a freeze than falling off a cliff. There's also been some questions, though, about whether the level of foreclosure activity picks up once some of these special pandemic programs end. Could we start to see any pressure points there?
Yeah, and not in the near term, right? So if you look at serious delinquency rate and you look at foreclosure activity taking place in the market, foreclosure inflow is still below pre-pandemic levels. Active foreclosure inventory still below pre-pandemic levels. Now, you are starting to see some uptick in early payment defaults among FHA-type mortgages, which will make their way downstream into that pipeline as we move towards the tail end of next year. You've got some CARES Act provisions that expire as we move into 2022. And so I think the trajectory for foreclosures likely is on the rise here over the next couple of years, but not a massive explosion of foreclosure activity that we saw last time around. We're just simply not in that type of environment.
And we talk about pent-up demand, but demand is weak right now because people aren't really trying to buy. I mean, they're all watching prices. They're kind of waiting. They're watching rates. What would it take to really unlock a wave of demand?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If you look at our Optimal Blue rate lock data, there were 50% fewer purchase mortgages locked in November than there were at the same time last year. Simply put, mortgage purchase demand is down 50%.
So in that short clip, and obviously it's CNBC, she's doing her damnedest, in my opinion, to spread a little bit of fear. And the Black Knight rep, Andy, is continuing to give raw data and education based on his perception of everything, not just what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks see this and they don't listen to the other side. They just hear the fear.
Yeah.
And from what I heard sellers are slowing down a little bit. We're not going to fall off a cliff like we did before in regards to the prices of homes. Mind you, California's and the fluctuating states are going to always fluctuate because they've got fluctuating values, fluctuating, et cetera, you know?
Yeah.
But he goes on to say that the foreclosure is nowhere near what it's going to be back. And he's referencing the 2008 crisis.
Yeah.
What he didn't say, and I understand why, nobody likes to talk about fraud.
Yeah.
That's why that one. This one is economic issue, pause, pumping money into the system, fear, uncertainty, all of those things. So we've got to kind of slow down,
Put it in perspective of what really happened.
Yeah.
You know, we all took the longest spring break ever known to man.
That was a cool way to put that.
I mean, if you really want to talk about that, do I really need to go to work? Hey, I can work from home.
Pajamas.
I'm in my PJs. I'm in my boxers.
That's awesome.
Nobody's going to see. And if they do see me on a Zoom, it's from
Face up. Yeah,
face
right,
chest
right.
up, you know? But I'm in the background in Hawaii.
Biggie.
So it's the longest spring break ever, right?
Yes.
We all partied. We all did. But here's where I'm coming from. What did you do with your money that you should have been doing with what you needed to do?
Agree.
And that is where I think it's not fear. It's mostly what did you do to create your situation that you're into now?
Concern.
Yes.
And you've got to see or hear the full situation.
The full context of it.
And they're all different. Be able to advise.
Yes. You know, because let's just face it. For every person that got a chance, some people use the chance. Like I said, I learned my lesson in 2000, so I used it as a safety net. What if? I don't know what tomorrow is, whether I get
Just in
Rona.
case, this is in place.
If something happens to me, what's my wife going to do? My kids, you know, what are they going to have to do? You know, that's why I did it. The other ones that took the money and, you know, didn't make the payment. I got money in my pocket now. I'm here to spend. I'm going to Vegas again 3 times this month. You know, I'm all rolling on black or red. Those are the ones that are going to see me. And I think where he's coming from, and I could be wrong, and we touched a little bit on it. People use their safety nets to get into houses. Now, I touched also on a little bit. When I bought my house, it was at 6.5% interest rate.
Right.
But my house was $120,000.
Good point. Yeah.
Now it's worth, if I sold it tomorrow, $370,000.
Correct.
Can I pay? I'm in a business, so can I pay that? I can.
Right.
But if
because of where you started.
But if I'm W-2,
right,
and I'm making, let's just say I'm working at Toyota. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to guess 18, 20,
30 to
25,000. Okay, so 50,000, right? Am I going to be able to make that same house payment? Yeah, if I want to just have Campbell soup. But Campbell soup went up in price too.
I was going to say, even that's up.
That's $2.50 a can.
I keep going back to it, but have you tried to buy chicken lately?
No, man. I just was at the store. You know, I get my ribeyes over at Costco still, so I get the bigger ribeye for $50 for 4 of them.
That's awesome.
I don't have to go to Perry's.
I love it. Today is Friday, so you get
that's right. That's right. Pork chop Friday.
That's it.
But I mean, the thing is that the other life experiences are happening. Lettuce. I mean, chicken. You're right. I didn't even realize eggs. Egg cartons were almost $7. It was $4 not too long ago, right? Where did that go? You know,
it's crazy. You're not wrong.
So here's what's happening is, even though we don't have, and in your side of the fence, yes, everything is controlled. Everything is a little bit more, so it's not, you can't blame us anymore for it.
Correct.
You know, we took a beating for the last, you know, after 2008, the mortgage guys took a beating. You're the bad man. You're the bad man, because that's who they pointed the finger to, right?
Not wrong.
So now they can't point the finger to you. Now consumers have to look at themselves. You know, they got to really look at themselves and say, I put myself in this spot.
Agree.
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, when I do a short sale, and banks are hip to this now. If that's a word. I probably dated some people, right?
It's all right.
But just so you know, short sale, I do your job. I have to basically opt out a person out of their home. So I have to collect their last 2 years, everything you do, last 2 year tax returns,
to prepare it, to provide to them, to say, hey, I really am needing
this. Their pay stubs, their bank statements. I got to do it all too, man. Right? But here's what I also see. When I see their bank statements and I'm dealing with that underwriter from the bank that says, why should we give this guy a break? I mean, the only difference is, well, not really a difference because you guys have letters too that you have to explain, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So mine is the hardship letter, right? They look at those bank statements. If you're going to Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, and you're not going to HEB to buy your groceries, they see it.
You're going to decrease your chances of them.
They look at that stuff, and I started catching on to that a few years ago when they're like, well, you know, they're going out to eat. And what do you mean? Looked at their bank statements? There are McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, you know, all these Ruth Chris, Berry, you know, people are living a life of convenience.
Right.
Why should we help you? You know? And so they want to make sure that you're doing it your part too. They're going to have to take the cut. But life happens, man. And that's, I think, where we're at right now. People use their safety net to get into free money. Don't over leverage yourself. That's the one thing I want to advise people on. Advise your clients if they over leverage, they did everything they get, make that payment. Because they still have a chance to save themselves. And it's the first, I tell this even in my office, because my office, they don't want anybody messing around with short sales. It's a bigger issue.
Messy situation, yeah.
It's a mess. Well, I'll give you an example.
If you don't know,
one of the things is on a new home. You go buy a new home. The first things that come around are the guys that want to give you water softeners, the solar panels, everything, right? So those are all liens on the house.
Yes, sir.
And they hide those things in those title commitments. The first thing I tell people is pull that statement out, talk to them, and say, are we going to have a problem? Especially in this market where things are slowing down. Sure. Are we going to have a problem in 3 months if I can't move this house within 60 to 90 days? Have those honest conversations. Don't lie and tell them, oh, I'll sell it tomorrow. And this is not $1 million listing. I'll sell it in 30 days.
Right.
Let's be fair and honest with our consumers and say, hey, if there's a problem, I need to know now. Because if we're going to get into a problem, I need to know or get somebody to help me sell this place.
Man, that's good stuff.
And that's where I come in from, man. I want to be a good steward, and that's what I've learned. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm always that person that I helped save from their foreclosure or their short sale have already bought and sold for me 3 times already because that's how long I've been doing it. Or they'll hear coworkers and they're stressing about something. They're getting right. Or are you okay? What's going on? And sometimes they open up to people. Your coworkers are probably more than family to you because you're with them more times of your life, right? So they're going to tell you, I'm having a problem. They're at least going to be able to tell, I know a guy that can probably help you out. And that's where I'm from. I want to save their house, but if I have to sell it, I would rather sell it, get them back in the game so they can come back and see you, Mark, and get another loan and go do this again. But be smart about it next time. Those 2 words. Do you want it or do you need it whenever you make a purchase?
I love it. Tony, thank you for this. It was a great conversation.
Thank you for having me on, man. What started off as, what are you talking about? Because now we've learned from each other to know that I'm not in it to sell it. I'm in it to save them and help them out.
And I think overall, guys and gals listening to this, I want to make sure that you understand that if you are in a situation to where you can't make your mortgage payment, the first thing I advise you to do is jump on the damn internet and Google what your options are. Reach out to the servicer of your actual loan to find out what options they can provide you with. Because as we've discovered here and discussed, they don't want your house. They don't want to keep your house. They want you to make your payment on your house, but if you can't, there are options. And since the pandemic took place, there are even more options available to you as a homeowner to keep you in your home. I think that this coming from an educational stance is the most important thing that we can stress here is, yes, we are here to help you sell it, etc. But first, we want to educate. Because at the end of the day, as homeowners ourselves, your foreclosure affects our values too. And that is something that we hold dear to us because we do believe in passing these things on generationally and building wealth as the biggest driver of generational wealth. That's one thing that most people don't really realize until you're an actual homeowner. So that being said, guys, if you're getting something out of this, please make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend. You never know who could get some insight and who may actually need this at the moment. Timing is everything, and I've had a great time here with you, Tony. So
hey, Mark, it's a blast. I appreciate the opportunity to sit here, and I love talking about this, completing my own story and where I went to. So, yes, we're here to help, right?
Amen.
And if we're not doing that, what are we doing?
I love it. Great way to end that. Guys, we will catch you on the next one.